So, emotion builds a story. It's one of the building blocks of story construction. If any of you have ever sat down and thought, okay, why am I continually reading this story? I can't put it down. I can't go to bed. I haven't fixed a meal. I'm late for this appointment. It's about emotion because emotion is what keeps us turning pages. It ushers in sensory perception and gathers word choice, symbols, body language, and various literary devices to show a distinct character embracing a story world. The core of our story is the character not only embracing but walking through and feeling the world. And our job as a writer is to put that reader into that character's shoes so that reader just shuts out the outside world and they become a part of that journey, a part of that adventure. It's intimacy of a character internalizing and processing the world around them. The various changes in a character's life produces psychological reactions and responses that are connected to feelings and memories and behavior. To ensure the reader steps into the pages of a powerful story, the writer incorporates various techniques that are related to emotions, not telling, but showing. We want powerful, page turning, dynamic novels that are bathed in undeniable emotions. And that's what we're about today. Every word, action, reaction, and internal thought about the world around us breathes emotion. Feeling is what makes us human, helps us to communicate with others and analyze life. Writing our story requires a thorough knowledge of the character to understand emotions. And I want to pause right here. And if any of you are interested in how I develop characters, all you have to do is email me. I believe that the information is there to email me. Tell me that you'd like that characterization sketch, and I would be glad to send that to you. Our characters process emotions based on their personality, their career, their culture, backstory, education, relationships, DNA, and life experiences. In turn, our reader processes their behavior through their own filters. So when I say what we write is an adventure, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it is an adventure. It is a journey because the readers see themselves in the character and they are intrigued about how someone else interprets life challenges. Oh, yeah, it builds our story.
Oh,
I love,
Diane, also the slides don't seem to be advancing on our view. I don't know if they're advancing on your view or not.
you do not have a new, you do not have a new,
No, it still is on the title screen.
well, okay, then let's just go back to Plan B. And are we
Okay.
here at Plan B?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Okay, okay. It's a little primitive, but you know what? It works.
Okay.
This is no surprise to God, so we go with it. I love this quote by James Michener. I love writing. I love the swirl and swing of words as they tangle with human emotions. And isn't that what writing is all about? It is just being a little, um,
Maybe you have to click over there on the
yes,
left side.
I have never had this happen before, but that's okay. Let me stop share and start right back again and see what in the world is going on with us. Please have a little patience here as we are having temporary issues with what's going on. And I know that we can fix it. And so let's go back here and let's go here. And what do we have? We have,
You're on the James Michener quote. Oh. Do you want to try hitting play and then advancing your Oop, I think we just lost. I think you might have accidentally deleted the quote here.
maybe. Do you have that one?
The James Michener, yep, screen is up. If you try to advance your slides and see,
I did.
it's still stuck on the same slide. It's not advancing.
Okay. You know what we're going to do? We're going to just forget about those slides because you can't see them.
Ah, we can see this. Yep.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. We'll continue and see what happens. We've got some little demons in here, but we're going to.
I think if you click on each slide,
Okay.
it will show up
All
there
right.
in the screen. Yep.
I can do that. I can do that. If this is the worst thing that ever happens to any of us, this is a piece of cake. Nonverbal communication processes emotion through body language. A character can lie to others, but the internal rips the bandage off the raw reality. Statistics show that communication is approximately 90% nonverbal. Remember when our mother said to us, what you're not saying speaks louder than what you are saying? This is exactly what we're talking about. And when we as writers decide to learn a little bit more about nonverbal communication, it helps us write stories with emotion that show and don't tell. Truth surfaces through tones, gestures, and voluntary and involuntary facial muscles. Some people can hide their facial expressions, but a trained person specializes in interpreting unconscious muscle movements. This leads to more twists and turns in our stories. In your handout are books that show the writer how to use nonverbal body language. And I believe all of you have those. Now let's see. Okay, what are we going to do here? Ah, ever been like that? We don't want to deal with emotions. It's just too hard and too difficult. And the characters in our stories are the same way. A writer's challenge is to force the character to reveal the emotions that are often bound in pain. The character doesn't understand the emotional wound, and it prevents them from their full potential and prohibits them from achieving success. And we all know others who have experienced some painful experiences, and without help, they have a difficult time processing and moving on. Feelings wrapped in physical, mental, or spiritual suffering rise from fear, from grief, guilt, shame, anguish, sadness, sorrow, torture, betrayal, bitterness, depression, loneliness, abandonment, persecution, physical abuse, verbal abuse, and more. Our characters don't want to relive those events any more than we would. But to be strong and to move forward, it's something that has to be done. So our characters don't want to do that. It's up to us, the writer, to put them in a position to have that courage to work through emotions. And emotions don't rely on a gathering of information, processing, or analysis, but internal sentiments based on a lot of different events. Showing a legitimate emotion like anger when someone runs a stop sign and hits your car is a logical reaction. The depth and the anger that is shown depends on the character's life experiences. Body language. Oh, according to Tanya Ryman, author of The Power of Body Language, the world and its people share 7 universal emotions. Now, we're from a lot of different countries. It does not mean that the emotions I'm going to give you are shown in the exact way in every country, every culture. It does mean that we experience them, but according to the culture and the life experiences of your character, that's how they are expressed. So we have surprise, fear, anger, sadness, disgust, happiness, contempt, and those are the 7. I hope while I was giving you each one of these emotions that you were thinking, oh, does that mean that my character has to experience all these emotions in a book? Yes, they do. But how they do it is up to you. We want our characters to experience these things not only just once, but multiple times. And it's all about balance. Balance is emotion in a scene must equal the tension and the conflict of the story. If there's too much, then the scene's overdone and readers lose interest. If there's too little, the scene sort of falls flat because the character is not real to the reader. So we need balance. The bigger the action that prompted the reaction or the emotion, the more intense the response. A character doesn't experience one distinct feeling or emotion, but a collection and on different levels. We are complex humans and we don't fit an established pattern or we don't stamp a template onto someone's page and say, okay, that's how you do things, because that's not true. That's not how God made us. We want to show the emotions with different responses and reactions that fit the circumstances and the character's traits. Remember the last time? Here's a challenge for you. I'm stopping right here. I love this challenge. I want you to write down this prompt, and in your spare time, I want you to write down the most painful, excruciating experience of your entire life. I want you to write down who was there. What did you feel? What was said? How did you react? And how do you feel about that today? Now, that exercise is not only good for you to process those emotions, but consider if you took that same exercise and you posed that to your character with their own set of traits and life experiences. Imagine the power in that scene. So that's my little challenge for you today. The only thing that matters is the human heart in conflict with itself by William Faulkner. Consider an emotional arc for your point of view characters. Record how your character will grow emotionally from beginning to end. And if your point of view character is an antagonist, they may not grow to become a better person. Most likely, their problem will increase. The emotive conflict of dealing with life's pressures must challenge and change the character as they journey through each scene and on to the complex. And here we go. Okay, now you heard me mention tension and stress and conflict before. That's what novels are. They're about confrontation. And usually it's a little tension, then it moves to stress, and then it moves to conflict. These necessary ingredients are impossible to incorporate unless the writer fills the pages with character emotions constantly in conflict. The directions are simple, but not necessarily easy to follow. A writer scrapes the scabs off the character's heart to expose raw emotions. The technique connects the reader to the character in ways that defy reality. How many of you have read a story and just felt like you were there? You experienced it all. When a novel fails, usually the cause is the lack of emotive conflict, emotions in conflict. Every scene should contain clashes, and without emotion and conflict, the reader doesn't find much value in the story. It's unrelatable. The conflict can be another person, it can be nature, it can be a spiritual group, it can be a social group, or technology. All require the character to work through a situation that is potentially catastrophic. Some negative emotions are more difficult to process, and according to the character, build conflict, like fear, anger, contempt, betrayal, confusion, jealousy, rejection, and more. These happenings trigger the character into potentially explosive behavior. Sometimes a hint of negativity can conjure hidden emotions that result in a crisis reaction. Have you ever been with someone and they just exploded and you really did not know where that explosion came from? And that's exactly what I'm talking about with our characters. We have to deal with those emotions, or there comes a time when those emotions deal with us. How does a writer use emotive conflict to engage readers? Here's a few examples. I love you, but I hate you. You asked me to marry you, and that made me the happiest gal on the planet. No one could love you more, and I thought you felt that way about me. But after we married, I discovered you still had a girlfriend who'd given birth to two of your children. Emotions in conflict. I love you, but I hate you. Here's another. I love my parents when they're sober, but I despise their abuse when they're drinking. This time they fought and hit each other and broke furniture. I must move out of my home to keep my sanity. Emotions in conflict. Here's one more. Moving across the country to take on a new job is exciting. The pay is great and it's a step up in my career, but I'm scared to death. What if I fail? What if I'm fired? Again, emotions in conflict. And it sounds like life. We don't enjoy confrontation, but we insist upon emotive conflict in the books we read and write. Questions fill our minds about how the characters will resolve their differences. Will the differences lead to more relational difficulties? Is the turmoil internal, external, both? We are engrossed in the characters' conversation with our own solutions. Mastering emotive conflict is the secret to writing a best-selling novel. Without it, we are simply penning boring conversations. And for those of you who are writing nonfiction, think about the power of emotion in your topics. How can you use that to continue your story and have that reader grasp what you're talking about? Then we have point of view. A point of view character paves the way for the reader to embrace the story. This character not only has the most to lose in this scene, but they also have the most to gain. That's how we choose a point of view character. Our story players differ in culture, memory, role models, education, life history, ethnicity, and personality. And those qualities help determine how emotions are relayed and processed, positively or negatively. Our characters aren't limited to one emotion when life happens, but several beyond the predictable or expected. The mix confirms the complexity of personality and life experiences tossed into a plot where emotions dictate behavior. Distancing point of view. Let's talk a moment about emotion and point of view. An important key to writing emotive conflict is to evaluate how deep we want the reader to feel the emotion. If our stories are tragically dark, scene after scene, we may lose the reader simply because it's depressing. So we want to walk the reader through continuous physical, mental, and spiritual pain, but we don't want to do it in such a way that they close the book because it's just simply too dark. So one way to do that, the best way to do that, is to vary the distance of point of view to allow the writer to control that emotional intensity. Here are a couple examples that show the power of emotive distance. Traffic grounded to a halt and flashing lights pointed to an accident. Great, I'd be late for work again. That's very distant. Here's the second one. I tapped the steering wheel while scrolling through my phone. I'd sat in traffic for 15 minutes waiting for emergency vehicles to clear the road. Media reported one death in a truck and motorcycle accident. Terror gripped me. Tom left for work a few minutes ahead of me on his motorcycle. Do you see how we're a little bit closer? Here's the third. Terror turned my blood to slush. Tom's motorcycle, once shiny blue, was now stained red. Tom's blood. He'd been but two vehicles ahead of me when a semi-truck hit him from behind. My beloved Tom flew up and bounced off the truck's hood. I blinked, unable to tear my gaze from his twisted body. My love lay still and broken in a mass of torn flesh. Do you have distance? You have a medium point of view, and you have up close and personal. And I hope you see why that close distancing point of view can really draw your reader in, but we have to be careful with it. Here is another one, a little one that's a little lighter. I made a commitment to attend the wedding, and I would, although I'd like to wear orange, the bride's most despised color. That's distance. Here's a little closer. 1 hour before driving to the wedding, regret pushed me into tears. How could I watch my sister marry the love of my life? Now let's go the deepest. I sat behind my parents in a 100-year-old church and gagged at the smell of roses. More like a funeral than a wedding. The wedding march started. Clenching my fists and fighting the urge to vomit, I stood with the rest of the congregation in honor of the bride, my sister, the betrayer, the younger version of me who took advantage of my 3 months of chemo and radiation to claw her way into my beloved's heart. She told me I couldn't be in the wedding party. I'd lost too much weight and looked so frail. I'd spoil her pictures. Distancing point of view. A distance point of view can scan time or a series of events. I've read frightening scenes from a killer's distance point of view. The killer had no remorse, no conscience, or regret for the actions, and the result proved terrifying. Depends on your mood, writer. A midpoint point of view moves the character forward to find answers, appease a curiosity, or explore new information. A close point of view transports the reader deep into the character's thoughts and emotions, as though the writer and the character are the same. Emotions are a set of complicated twists and turns. In addition to personality and life experiences forming our characters' responses to life, some emotions peel back to show others, like an onion. For example, anger occurs when an action or series of actions brings the character to a state of rage. Fear, hurt, jealousy, selfishness, greed, injustice, and more build to an explosion. The writer wields the power of what the reader will feel and experience. Look for ways to practice creative, emotive conflict and apply the technique to your story. There we go. Robert Frost, our great poet. No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. Sensory perception sends an invitation for the reader to come join my story adventure. The writer uses action, dialogue, figurative language, metaphors, similes to show seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and even intuition for the reader to identify with character. The reader's expectations are met by associating specific language and memory to invoke emotion. Experiencing the scene through the senses pulls in the energy of credibility in the real and understandable language. What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we smell, what we touch. Oh my goodness, the power of words. A creative arrangement of words can make or break the success of a novel. No stress for those writers. Word choice directs the reader's participation according to the meaning, mood, voice, rhythm, integrity, and life experience, and the genre. What type of genre is this story happening in? That, dear writers, takes imagination and skill, but you can do it. Dictation is the character's choice of words according to sound used to summon powerful emotions. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. The selection of words that we choose impacts an emotional connection in simple to understand language. It relays mood, theme, tone, persuasion, and story interpretation. Consider the emotions poured into titling a book. How often do we sit and labor over what we are going to call this book? We want it to have this attraction to the readers that says, read me, I'm irresistible. Now, here are a few famous novels that didn't start off with an enticing title. First Impressions became Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Something That Happened became Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Atticus became To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Tomorrow is Another Day became Gone with the Wind. Stranger from Within became Lord of the Rings by William Golding. All's Well That Ends Well became War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. They Don't Build Statues to Businessmen became Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. The Mute became The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. And I'm sure that you heard the emotion and the word choice in the better titles. First lines of our stories need a heavy punch of emotion to hook our readers. The opening sentence is also a writer's subtle promise. Every line will be as powerful as this one. The hook can be an unanswered question, curiosity, or perhaps an action. All exceptional first lines create emotion. And oh, the stress that the writer can build. Donald Newlove, in his book, Painted Paragraphs, says the following about the opening hook of our stories. And I quote, "It is about the white-hot opening whose glow speaks for a story's greatest strength, its spirit." Hooks are also vital at the end of scenes to keep the reader moving on to the next scene or chapter. A strong, emotive hook simply won't allow that reader to close the book. And I love the comments that say, "Your book kept me reading all night. Oh, I forgot to pick the kids up from school. I couldn't stop reading long enough to fix dinner, so I guess we're having peanut butter and jelly." Here are a couple of opening lines that I'm sure are familiar to you. "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. Amos Decker would forever remember all three of their violent deaths in the most paralyzing shade of blue. That's the first book of Memory Man by David Baldacci. Bad Things Happened in the Dark. That's Lethal Homecoming by Lynette Eason. It's Nathan's Fault I Became God from The God Game by Andrew Greeley. Here's one I think is funny. There was a boy called Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and he almost deserved it. It's by C.S. Lewis in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I Had Never Met a King Before by Joel Rosenberg, The Third Target. You better not never tell nobody but God. That's from Alice Walker, The Color Purple. See what you can do with emotions? Oh, this is one of my favorite parts of this workshop, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And it's about color symbols. You know, symbols point to something other and greater than what they are. In other words, a wedding ring. If you wear a wedding ring, it isn't just a ring, it symbolizes love, commitment, passion, determination, a lot of things. That's what symbols do. And color is so amazing. It paints our stories with subtle meaning deeper than a visual. The symbols affect emotion according to the character's personality, genre, and the scene's purpose. The use reveals the inner character and how that character approaches life. Below what I'm going to give you are some cliches, and they provide the emotional connection to colors that I want you to feel as we talk about each one of these colors. For example, she told a shade of truth. He showed his true colors. It was under the color of lend a color too. Those are all cliches, but we have heard them and we understand what that means. So let's start with red. Red represents a warm hue causing strong emotions from friendly and comforting to anger and hostility. Researchers have reported people overeat in rooms painted and decorated red. Does your character value red? Does the color show inner traits about your character? Think about these phrases: redneck, red hot, red light, a red flag, red handed, paint the town red, and seeing red. All used color, all used emotion for the different uh, uh, feelings that the color red did affected the character and reader. Blue carries a range of emotions from coolness to serenity. Many offices are painted this color because people are more productive in blue rooms. Many vacationers prefer the blue sky or a cloudless sky at the top of a mountain or at the sea. Blue can also mean sadness. Do you enjoy blues music? Consider a blue Monday. It was a blue ribbon day. Out of the blue, blue chip stocks, and work until you're blue in the face. Then we have green. Green often symbolizes nature and growth. The color has a calming effect. Researchers have proven those who work in offices painted green have fewer stomach aches and headaches. The color also points to wealth, greed, and jealousy. In the 15th century, green represented fertility. Wedding dresses were green. How do these phrases affect your character? He was a greenhorn. Got myself a green thumb. Green with envy. Green around the gills. And to give the green light. Yellow belongs in the spectrum between red and green. It's described as cheery and warm, but it also can represent frustration, especially if we're caught at a yellow light. And if we consider red passion and green growth, the additional meaning of yellow makes sense. Along with the color red stimulating the appetite, so does yellow. So when you go into your next favorite restaurant, take a look at some of the colors. There are a lot of red and yellow to make you psychologically buy more food, eat more. Yellow is also determined as a swing color because its hues and depths affect people's moods differently. Consider these expressions: mellow yellow, a coward; yellow traffic light; yellow leaves on a plant indicate possible disease. How does your character react to yellow? And then there's purple, which blends red and blue to create this vibrant color. It points to royalty, wealth, wisdom, spirituality. but it can also symbolize arrogance. Not every character is fond of purple. Is yours? Consider purple prose. He earned a Purple Heart and born to the purple. What about brown? Brown is a natural color that produces a down-to-earth feeling. We think of rich soil to grow plants and the texture of brown dirt between our fingers. For a person who's isolated on a farm and feels imprisoned, brown can symbolize sadness and depression. A few phrases of interest: chocolate brown, coffee brown, brown out, brown bag lunch, brown nosing, and brown as a berry. I can't believe that it is 8:46 here in Houston, and I yawn like it's 8:46 in the evening. Did that make you laugh? I hope so. Did that make you grin? I hope so. That's an emotion. Okay, back to colors. White signifies purity and innocence. The color also means spaciousness or a sterile environment. A bride often chooses a white wedding dress to symbolize her love and commitment to the groom. Hospital environments, see, I didn't, are often termed white. Settings of ice and snow can be referred to as desolate or pure and beautiful. Consider these popular expressions about white. It was a white lie, a sterile white. It was a white tie affair, a white elephant sail, raise a white flag, and white as a sheet. Pink is a romance color. Love, feminine, calming, soothing. Many book covers for romance novels use pink. I've heard women described as a mixture of white, and I'm yawning. I'm embarrassed. My screen wouldn't work and I'm yawning. But we're having a good time, right? Somebody can say amen. Women, I happen to be one. We're a mixture of red and we're a mixture of white, a mixture of purity and a mixture of passion. Also explains why men will say, can't live with her and I can't live without her. That should make you smile. I am not a pink person. It reminds me of Pepto-Bismol. What about your character? Does your character love pink? Or is that a color they avoid? Consider the phrases pink, pink power, think pink, and tickled pink. Orange is a blend of red and yellow to create a warm hue. The color attracts excitement and enthusiasm, as in fall or a harvest. Orange reminds many of autumn, football season, carving pumpkins, and the entrance into winter. Consider the phrase, time to orange up, squeezing the orange. He was in the autumn of his life, and comparing apples to oranges. I have two more. Black. It carries varied emotions. To some characters, the color points to evil and power and death and mourning. In the fashion world, black means sleek, unsophisticated. How a character views black indicates a unique side of his or her personality. Consider these phrases. It was Black Death, blackout. I saw a black cat. Blacklist, black market, black tie, and black belt. And then one of my favorite colors to use, in fact, I have to be careful not to use it too much, and it's gray. It blends black and white, death and life. It's popular for me to use as a suspense writer to show the tension and the conflict and I have tried very, very, very hard not to overuse it. Gray is rich with symbolism and shows opinions and prejudices. For example, if you are from Ireland or you've been to the Irish Sea, you know that it is gray. It is also a sign of life for the fishermen because that's where they get their livelihood. That's how they feed their families. But for the women waiting at home and the children, that sea represents death because a storm could rise up and take their family. Here are a few more ideas. It was shades of gray. It was a gray area. You gave me gray hair. A Dorian Gray person. Nothing is black or white, and gray is the pallor of death. Our character's personality determines on the psychological meaning of color, how it influences their mood, communication, and setting. Neurological disorders affect color in such ways as color blindness, reading auras, synesthesia, and that is when a person hears and reads different items in their life in color. For example, music notes to them look like a color. So let's move on to numbers. And they have symbolic significance. 1 indicates wholeness. 3 represents the Holy Trinity and is considered holy. 4 is earthy. It comes from the 4 seasons, the elements of earth, water, fire, and air. 6 means incompleteness, as in 666 represents the Antichrist who wants to be God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. 7 indicates completeness, as in God finishing creation and resting on the 7th day. And 12 is the number of God's power, fulfilled judgments, 12 months in a year, 12 disciples, 12 jurors. Those numbers mean things to cultures and individuals. And because of that, it creates emotion. The number 40, 40 days in the wilderness, 40 days to change a habit. The reader may enjoy reading the story without recognizing a symbol. And you know what? That's okay. But for the reader who understands symbols, the story becomes richer. It's not a puzzle. It is way to add more depth to that story. Symbolism stands strong as a vital part of a character's emotional reaction to the world around them. Use them as a natural flow to the character's true personality and emotion. I'm checking the time, and I do have a little bit more time here. I want to give you a list of 10 negative words, and then I'll give you a list of 10 positive words. The negative ones: anger, shame, failure, overwhelmed, loneliness, depression, guilt, fear, helplessness, and jealousy. Now, are you ready for some positive word choices that they too affect emotion? Joy, hope, love, content, inspiration, encouragement, gratitude, satisfaction, kindness, and affection. Writers enhance the reader's adventure through the word spelling, context, and rhythm. The sound of our words evoke emotion, mood, and setting due to the way they flow from our mouths. For example, hard consonants create a feeling of harshness. Brisk, terse, cut, kill, dank, or whatever language you are writing in. If I said, just get going and don't slam the door, ooh, he trembled and tried to stand on wobbly legs. Dumb kid, you asking for a beating? There's a whole lot of negativity right there. While words with long vowels can calm the reader and relax them. Would you like to pray? Can you play? Are you free? That is so nice. So, my. Then there are words with soft consonants, and they're easier to say and soothing to the ear. Mom, yes. Soft, circle, love. You can add a long vowel sound and you can slow down the heart rate of your reader. Oh, honey, you can join us. Show me. We see the city. I have energy. Words that end in Y, many of them are light and fun, pretty. My goodness, there we go. Dainty, lovely, perky, cheery. And even those words that just roll around in our mouth are fun. If we're writing romance, we want to use a lot of beauty words and soft consonants and rhythm. Rhythm affects emotion. Are you using short sentences, long sentences, short sentences, long sentences? So continue to analyze your words and phrase choices. Are the emotions evident? And encourage the reader to continue the next page and the next. Mastering powerful emotions and symbols prepare our stories to the next level and the next. So, as the slide says, how does emotion affect your story? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can, there we go. One thing I wanted to say is emotions have to be in every line that we write. And it's not impossible when we can use color, when we use body language, we use the sound of our words, the pacing in our sentences, numbers. It's all there. We can show that emotion, and our reader just wants our next book and our next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DiAnn. This is excellent content. We've already got some comments. We've got a question here from Robinson. He says, "What about the main characters or important characters' death at the end of the story? How does it affect the readers?"
If you're writing a story in which a character, a protagonist, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
passes at the end, make sure that you show it was a sacrifice and everything that led up to it was a sacrifice. In other words, they chose, instead of having treatment for their disease, to free a band of children, that kind of thing. Yes, your reader is going to be sad, but they're also going to see a life of purpose.
It's good. Another question here from Ablin. Can you explain more about rhythms? Is there a ratio of how long and um, how short sentences should be that are used?
I just did a session yesterday on pacing. So let me see if I can put that in a nutshell for you. You know how we love music because of its rhythm? Okay, that's why our sentences have to be short, long, with the sounds of the words and the way we put them together. The best way to check your rhythm is to use a text to voice type of software.
Hmm.
And Word has that if you use Word, so does Scrivener. But when you can hear your sentences read back to you, you can pick up that pacing. Or how many times did I use that word? Or this is boring me. Or wow, these sentences are short. It really is building the action that I wanted. That's how we do it. The best way is just listen to what we've written.
That's excellent. We don't have any other questions here, but is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up our time?
Any of you have any questions, you can email me at, uh, I guess I can put it in here, DiAnn. Let's see if I can type and talk at the same time. DiAnn at DiAnnMills.com. And I will I'll be glad to visit with you. And like I said, if you wanted a template on characterization or fiction writing, I don't believe in keeping anything for myself. Here's a little tidbit, writers. Whenever someone says or suggests this is how you should do this, this is how you should proceed, whether it's plotting, characterization, or combing your hair, make sure that you adapt it to your personality. My personality and your personality totally different. That's how God made us. So if you're looking at a PDF, a, a template that suggests this is how you do something, don't be afraid to change it. If it's going to work for you, it's got to work according to how your mind works. So that's my insight for the day. And
That's
I do
great.
apologize about the screen. Oh,
That's great. One other question here. Um, a question about how did those famous books that titles got changed? How did that come about?
editors. We all need a good editor. They have a perspective and they have an opinion and they know what readers want. That doesn't mean that we have to agree to everything that is said. But when an editor tells me something, oh, I better pay attention.
Mm,
Little things like, I don't like exclamation marks. I want all that emotion to show in the words and the action, but sometimes they're needed. Uh, I'm a seat of the pants discovery writer. That means I don't outline. Can you imagine how frustrating that is to my editor? So I have to try to put something together first. So listen to that editor. They are there for a reason. And if you're lucky, you can get more than one.
that's excellent. Very good. Well, I think that's all the time that we have. We're going to start our closing slides. So Mia, if you could put up our closing slides for us, we'll go through our final screens here. This webinar has been recorded. All registered participants will receive a link to the recording today, and it will soon be posted on the MAI YouTube channel, which is at MAI Lit World. That's LITTWORLD. We want to know how we can serve you better through our webinars. There's a QR code on your screen and a link in the chat panel where you can take a very short survey. We'll be putting the QR code up again at the end of the webinar if you don't catch it just now. Make sure you look out for our next webinar in English on July 14th at 1 p.m. UTC time. It's entitled The Digital Pen, AI in Christian Publishing. It will be presented by Jaychan Sudarshan. Jaychan is an experienced editor with over a decade in Christian and secular publishing in India. He specializes in developing manuscripts into publishable books and holds master's degrees in English literature and theological studies. MAI regularly offers training in writing, editing, and publishing, both online and in person. We encourage you to go to maiglobal.org to find out more and discover more resources and information. Thank you to all of you who joined and participated with us. I'm Heather Pubels, your host, along with Mia Toganon, our technical assistant. The QR code for our survey will be going up very soon, so you can provide us with your feedback before you sign off. It should only take you a minute, so please fill it out. Your input is really valuable to us. Until next time, keep writing, everyone.